Hey, what's going on everyone? Greg here, and I'm here to tell you the cold hard truth that these foldable phones that everyone's hyped about in 2019, they're really going to disappoint you. It seems like everyone is releasing a foldable phone right out of nowhere, from Samsung with their Galaxy Fold to Huawei with their Mate X Fold to the Royal Flex Pie Lemon Meringue was released a while ago and people looked at it and went, oh my god, this is horrible. Now we're suddenly getting an influx of somewhat passable foldable phones that people are starting to get really excited for. And I was tempted not to really make a video like this until a friend of mine recently texted me and said that he was super interested in the new Galaxy Fold and he really wanted one, and I had to kind of lay it on him and go, even though this looks like a really cool design, and I'm with you right there, I think the foldable technology inside of these phones is downright amazing. The fact that we can actually bend a screen in half is kind of a miracle. So I like the technology there, but I had to tell him that these phones, for the price and what you're getting for them, and the early design in this stage, are going to be heavily disappointing and very heavily flawed. And considering I had to tell one of my friends this, who is pretty good in the tech space, I figured I would make a video to inform my audience as well as to why I think that these phones are going to be really disappointing, at least for now. Because as more details come out about these phones, I'm starting to see even more compromises than I initially realized. And the compromises seem to stem on almost all of these foldable phones, and each one has their own unique set of different compromises. So let's start off with one of the traits that they all share in common. One of the biggest downsides of these foldable phones is that they all have a plastic screen. It's no secret that when the first iPhone came out in 2007, there was a story that the original iPhone was going to ship with a plastic screen. But when Steve Jobs had his iPhone, he had some change in his pocket and some keys, and after his phone was in the same pocket with those materials, he discovered that his iPhone was really scratched. Jobs took this back to the engineering team and basically said, look at this screen, it's a pile of junk, it's all scratched up, we gotta put a glass screen on the iPhone right at the last minute of releasing the device. So if that happened back in 2007, and even glass screens today still have a little bit of a problem getting scratched. I know my iPhone XS Max has received some hairline scratches that I really wish weren't there. These plastic screens on foldable phones are going to be prone to the same exact type of scratches that way back in 2007 when Steve Jobs got that scratched iPhone, he said we need to change the material on it. So the Galaxy Fold does kind of fix this in a way. The outer screen is a glass screen, so you can expect the same level of scratch resistance and durability from Gorilla Glass screened phones. However, once you open up the Galaxy Fold, that is a plastic display. So Samsung's trying to solve this by not really exposing that screen too much. When you fold it up and put it inside of your pocket, it's not going to be jumbling around with change and getting the inside of the screen scratched up. But one area where I really have to worry is if something gets caught in between the screen when you fold it up. Say just a little piece of sand can cause havoc scratching a glass screen. Imagine if you folded up your Galaxy Fold, there's a piece of sand or a rock or something like that, something so small that's jiggling around inside of the phone as it's closed, and it just leaves a bunch of scratch marks. However, I still think that the Galaxy Fold looks to be a lot more durable than what Huawei went with. The Huawei method of dealing with this is not to make the back of the phone a casing, it's to make the entire back and front of the phone a screen that folds out into a tablet. But this is going to face a bigger level of durability issues in my eyes because the whole part of that phone is covered by a plastic screen. So if you stick that in your pocket, you have both elements exposed to getting scratches. That even brings up the question on the Huawei phone, because the back part is a screen, if you drop that phone right onto the back, there is a bigger chance that your screen is going to get damaged. Which brings up another part of this, is the durability of those folding mechanisms. How good can we expect them to be on the first generation of foldable smartphones? I know Samsung threw out a number that you'll be able to fold and unfold the Galaxy Fold a bunch of times before it initially breaks, but I'm still a little bit skeptical that these designs will hold up after a long period of use. In fact, Apple just released a patent, as all these other companies are releasing their first generation of foldable phones, that will heat up the screen inside of a foldable phone to prevent any damage from when you're unfolding and folding the device when it is cold outside. Which apparently might be a huge oversight that Samsung and Huawei overlook, that these devices are more prone to having damage happen to them when you're unfolding that device in cold weather. Now, besides the actual mechanism breaking down in these foldable phones, a big part of concern for me is the amount of creasing that folding and unfolding the device over a extended period of time. How are those creases going to look? We've seen these phones being used for a day and being presented on stage, and you can visibly see the creases on almost any of these folding phones. So after a year of use, or maybe even 6 months of use, how are these phones going to look? Is it going to be a big ugly crease running down the center of all of these screens? That's not going to be a good consumer experience. Another big problem that these first generation foldable phones are going to face is that they're pretty thick. Just take a look at any of these foldable phones, and when they're in that folded mode, they are really thick. It's going to be really hard to get used to going back to a device that is that thick when currently all of our smartphones are pretty slim. Battery life also remains a concern for these first generation of foldable phones. The battery life in the Galaxy Fold is going to be interesting, considering it's shipping with about the same size battery as their current flagship phones, but they have to power a much bigger screen inside of it. Even people who had hands-on with the new Huawei foldable phone said that their main concern was the battery life. Huawei was pretty skittish on details for how long we can expect the battery life to last on these phones, and that was a big takeaway. How long will a 8-inch phone have for its battery life when you're using it fully unfolded? I think another disappointing area is that people expect these phones to be a lot bigger than they actually are. I covered this before, but the Samsung Galaxy Fold only has a 7.3-inch screen, which is a lot smaller than even a small tablet like the 7.9-inch iPad mini. The Huawei Mate X Foldable actually does a much better job in the screen size department because both sides of the phone are part of the screen, so when you unfold it, it actually folds into a respectable 8-inch tablet. So I really can't complain there. I think that size for that tablet is going to be in line for what people expect out of these foldable devices. So I have to give Huawei credit there that they released a size that I would personally want to use. However, where we're going to start disagreeing with what Huawei released is what they priced this device at. The Huawei Mate X Foldable retails for $2,600 US. The 11-inch iPad Pro starts at $799. You could buy 3 iPad Pros, bend 2 of them in half, and still have $200 left over that you could use to purchase something else before you get up to that price of the Huawei Mate 10 Foldable. And the Galaxy Fold comes in at $2,000, and even though that's $600 less, it is still a lot of money to be paying for a phone with not a lot of added benefits for the increased cost. Paying $1,000 more or $1,600 more for this phone and tablet combo, I don't think is going to generate that kind of convenience for spending that much money. And we still haven't come down to probably the biggest thing that's going to be plaguing these Android foldables from the start, and that is the software that is running on these devices. This is the first generation of foldables, and I'm pretty sure there are going to be a lot of bugs and kinks to work out in the software. And now, Android isn't traditionally known for constantly updating their phones. So you might buy this first generation device expecting it to maintain a constant stream of updates, but maybe they don't even update it past a year, or maybe you don't even receive a yearly update that really improves these devices. Furthermore, Android isn't known for having really great tablet apps, so you're going to have a bit of a bad user experience going on a phone that transforms into a tablet, and most of these apps that you're using in tablet mode aren't going to be optimized for the screen. And forget about third-party developers making it a priority to update these devices, which probably aren't going to sell that many units based on their price. I still have unoptimized apps on my iPad Pro, and Apple sells a lot more iPads than these companies are ever going to sell of their foldable phones, and the Amazon app still is not properly updated on that phone. So even though Samsung first-party stuff and Huawei might have their stuff running perfectly in a foldable form, I really wouldn't expect the majority of third-party Android apps to be taking full advantage of the foldable real estate. And especially from a software standpoint, it really makes me feel like Apple is really the only one uniquely positioned to take advantage of a foldable phone right now, considering that they are moving towards having iPhone, iPad, and Mac apps all run in one singular app. And with the iPhone and iPad, they pretty much have a really diverse library of apps that work on an iPhone and work really well on an iPad. So by having that kind of support, and Apple generally does have a better third-party developer support with newer applications. So to me, it seems that Apple might be the only one able to get the software right on these foldable phones. And aside from the hardware, the software is going to be a big part of what makes using these foldable phones a better experience than just using a regular phone. There are just lots of ideas that aren't perfected yet. There are lots of ideas that need to be refined in these foldable categories, both in the hardware and software. Now let me reiterate one more time. I think that this foldable technology is really cool stuff, but as someone who has to talk to the consumer, I don't think it's currently ready yet for the mass market to be purchasing these kinds of devices, and I don't think you watching this video should go rush out and purchase these phones without watching a lot of reviews on them first and really making sure that this is something that would work in your lifestyle, because at this state, I don't really see the value added from getting a foldable phone as opposed to any of the current flagship phones. So I think for a lot of people out there who are excited about the technology, like my friend, I think you guys are going to be really disappointed for foldable phones in 2019. But maybe I'm wrong. I still hold final judgment for when these devices finally get into our hands, and let me know what you think. Are you excited about foldable phones? Do you plan on purchasing either the Galaxy Fold, the Huawei Foldable, or any of these other phones that are coming to the market with foldable technology? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.